Hey everyone, welcome to the Fortress of Solitude podcast. I'm your host Sergio Pereira, and actually, let's just say about 90% of the time, I'm joined by Loïs Qutob. So, dude, what's happening, man?
Man, what's up?
Yeah, you had a bit of a break. I mean, are you feeling a little bit refreshed after your holiday?
Dude, I was in. I was kind of missing the podcast, to be honest. Just sad and wanted to come back. So to be honest, that's the only reason I came back from a holiday at all.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good. That's good. And don't tell anybody that you do work for anything like that.
No.
That's the only reason. No, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's nice to get a bit of a break, and it was. Yeah, we missed you last week, but I mean, you're here now, and today we're going to be talking about probably one of the best, if not the best, gaming franchise of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I mean, it's the best gaming franchise for me.
Cool.
It is Mortal Kombat, dude. Mortal Kombat. And I mean, this is the part where, like, we need to hear the Mortal Kombat music. When it starts that little techno beat, like, Mortal Kombat!
Yeah.
Exactly, dude. So today we're basically going to be discussing, obviously, Mortal Kombat and why it is the king of fighters. So, obviously, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, like, were you one of those kids that, there's two kinds of people in this world. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
You're either a Mortal Kombat fan or a Street Fighter fan. Which one were you?
So I played like almost zero Street Fighter. I was straight Mortal Kombat. I think I played it on the NES first. That was my first time playing it. And then I played it on the Sega Genesis. And that was my first introduction to sort of like something a bit darker, something a bit gory. And I remember I used to freak out. Like if someone did a fatality to me, like before they could complete it, I used to reset my console because I didn't want to see them murder me so brutally. I was like, no, let me try again.
Oh, wow, man. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, I mean, Street Fighter obviously came first. I mean, look, I mean, there was a Street Fighter game. There was the first one that came out, but it wasn't quite as popular as when, Street Fighter 2 came out. That was like the one. And I mean, that was lighting up arcades. I remember like playing that and just thinking like, whoa, this is great. With this sort of like anime sort of inspired graphics and, these over the top characters like Blanca and Ryu and, M. Bison. You just kind of knew it was like really cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like, I remember as well as a kid, playing Mortal Kombat for the first time. And I think it actually was when I walked into arcade.
Right.
And like, there's all these kids like grouped around, like all these older kids like grouped around this arcade like machine. And they're playing this game. And I'm like, obviously you walk inside, trying to like peer over everybody's shoulders, but you're a bit small. So you kind of like get a bit of a distance. And I'm seeing like these, like, first of all, these like realistic sprites, that are there of the characters.
Oh yeah.
And there's like blood, like flying everywhere. And I'm like, whoa, okay, this is insane. And then, as you say, the fatalities. Like, I think the first one I ever saw was Sub-Zero when he like ripped off like somebody's head. That was like the first one.
Classic.
And like, I remember seeing, I was like, whoa, what is this? This is like incredible. And I'll just never forget, like, I was just thinking to myself, this is incredible. Like, this is like, how much better can gaming get? That's what you think, because it's just like, it felt like, it felt like a Van Damme movie. Like, like when you go watch Bloodsport or something like
Johnny
that.
Cage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously Johnny Cage was based on Van Damme, and Van Damme, well, actually, the whole history of Mortal Kombat.
Van Damme was based off Johnny Cage.
Well, no, Johnny Cage was based off of Van Damme, but yeah. But basically, like, well, yeah, pretty much. Let's just say Johnny Cage came first. But anyways, the whole history, like, I still remember when I heard about it, it was mind-blowing that, Midway was trying to create, like, a licensed game for Van Damme. And then there were, like, problems, and then that's why, they created this character, Johnny Cage. It was almost like, a bit of a parody of Van Damme.
Yeah.
Everything came. But if you kind of think about it, it's insane because that means that we could have actually not had Mortal Kombat, just had a Van Damme game.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Exactly. And it's so weird. Like, and then obviously Van Damme goes and plays Guile in the Street Fighter movie as well, which is like, dude, it's like, it just blows my mind to actually think about how insane, like, the whole thing is here. Like, going from a Van Damme game to Van Damme being like your biggest competitor's like movie. It's it's something else. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. You know what? I probably started off as a bit of a Street Fighter like fan.
Okay.
That was the thing for me. Like, I was really into Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat caught my eye, obviously. And I remember getting it on Sega Genesis as well. But I do think that it was Mortal Kombat 2 that finally convinced me. I was like, oh, okay, this is something else. Yeah, and that one for me was the one where I thought to myself, okay, this is something else.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of like, it just had, richer cast as well, and the levels, the designs of the levels, the fatalities at the time. It was just really, really cool. And I mean, which one would you say, like for you, like what is your favorite Mortal Kombat game? If you can think back, which is the one that actually said to you, okay, this is the game that it's really changing the way I look at fighters.
So this is a tough one, right? Because I think growing up, you only have so many games. Your parents buy them for you. You can't really select what you're gonna get for the most part. I mean, for me at least, I got a hand me down with all the games already there. So I had both Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, I think, or it was 1 and 3, but 3 was my favorite back then. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like that battle with Shao Kahn, who I could only beat with Sub-Zero. I used to spam him with like the same thing. Him and Cyrax, I could beat him just spamming the same combos. But then I think overall, like, once I got older and I got a taste of the PlayStation, the PlayStation 2 games and whatnot, Mortal Kombat Armageddon was my favorite, hands down.
Yes. You see, the thing is, like, it's funny you mentioned Mortal Kombat 3, because for me, I remember when that came out, and funny enough, like, it's a funny story whenever I think about it. One of my friends, his dad like owned a restaurant.
Yeah.
And and then part of the restaurant, they had like a little subsection as well, which was a bar, and they had a lot of arcade machines.
Nice.
And one of the arcades, like one of the machines, he got Mortal Kombat 3 when it came out, like brand new, like was there. And he had his birthday party there, and the guy who like set up the arcade machines just kind of took off the option, for coins, like it's unlimited lives.
Legend.
So we went to his like birthday party, and we just we played Mortal Kombat 3 until we finished it. And for me, like, as cool as that experience was, and it's something I vividly remember, and I do think it progressed the game forward in many ways, like in terms of combos and in terms of like exploring the lore a little bit more. I thought it was kind of weak in terms of the cast. I mean, it just removed a lot of fan favorite characters and gave us a lot of crap, like Striker.
I was gonna say Striker was the least memorable.
Dude, I mean, who wants to play as a cop? I mean, come on. Like,
him and his stick, his baton, or whatever he was using to whack you
exactly.
with.
Do you really want to play as a cop? I mean, come on. It's like, out of all these characters out there, you've got these like supernatural characters, and you want to play as like, somebody who's going to write you a parking ticket.
With a backwards baseball cap as well. I still remember his dumb look, and I just sat there, I was like, I'm never playing you.
Yeah, it's just like the ultimate douchebag character that you can think of. It's just like creative. It's like you remove Johnny Cage and you give us this like this guy. I mean, I'm like, come on,
watered down version of just like, let's just chuck him in.
Yeah, we just need like a random white guy. So we're just gonna
representation of characters, like a policeman. Then why not?
Yeah, because that's exactly what every teenager wants to play, as a policeman. I mean, come on. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that you say that, Mortal Kombat 3, because I do think that at the same time, while I think it was not really the best title, I think it's probably one of the worst titles for me, Mortal Kombat. It did do a lot of things moving like the genre forward.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I think probably my favorite Mortal Kombat game right now is Mortal Kombat 11, because I just, I played it recently, and I think they're doing all the right things. They're hitting all the right notes. It's evolved, and it's just such a rich experience.
Yeah, no, so for me, game. It's a solid game.
Yeah, you can't run away like from how good it actually is. Yeah. And I mean, comparing it to, Street Fighter at the moment, and I like look at it, I'm like, ooh, it's it just doesn't. You can't correlate them. It's like Mortal Kombat's on a different level.
Yeah.
It's completely run away. Like Street Fighter is like still stuck in like 1992, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, and Mortal Kombat is.
I don't know what it is. Sorry about Street Fighter, but it's like, I mean, to be honest, I didn't play much of it, right? But it just feels kind of cartoony, which is fine, which is great. But something about the mechanics or the way it flowed just didn't work out for me. It was too like, I don't know, like the combos felt kind of weird and rigid and like instant. Maybe it was the animation. Maybe it was. I like the darker fighting games more. But yeah, on a personal note, Yeah,
it just feels a little bit dated. I get you. It's just, there's something about it that I don't necessarily know if it's, evolved with the times per se.
Yeah.
And it's like something like Tekken as well. I mean, if you think about it, like, Tekken on PlayStation 1, Tekken 3, I mean, that was the fighting game that you wanted to play. That game was amazing for its time. I mean, no one was even talking about Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter at that stage.
Yeah.
It was all Tekken. And now, like, you pretty much got to give Tekken away on special for anyone to buy it because no one is actually really interested in it. And it's sad because I also thought like Tekken had a lot of potential. It had such a cool, storyline to it, and some really interesting characters. And like now, you kind of look at it and you say, well, do I want to play Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, or Tekken? It's like you always go for MK.
Yeah, you're right. Tekken did have a lot of good story. I mean, was it Tekken 4 on the PS2 where you could play as Jin and Devil Jin, all the stuff, and there's a whole story mode that you played through as like a third person. You didn't even play like fighting. You played like similar to like Armageddon. You had this whole story mode.
That's a good question. I actually cannot remember for the life of me. I remember Tekken 3, but it's like I said, man, it's been so many years since I played Tekken, so I can't even remember it. But yeah, I do vaguely remember something like that from one of the games. But yeah, Tekken did some cool stuff. Like I remember even you could fight with beach balls. I remember that. Like you could have like this sort of like volleyball competition. You can't drop the ball, so you got to like beat the crap out of your opponents and keep the beach ball from falling.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. I mean, they did some cool stuff. But yeah, I just think that Mortal Kombat is a title that's managed to stay relevant.
Yeah.
The fact that it's like it's almost 3 decades since it was released, and it still stays relevant to this day. And I mean, this actually brings me to the next point. It's the mythology behind it. I think that Street Fighter actually does have like really good storylines, but I find that the Street Fighter storylines, where you find the best mythologies in the anime and when you find it in the comic books, that they start exploring it. But I think the games somehow they always fall short a little bit. They don't actually capture it. Whilst with MK, and I think we were talking about this, just off air, even before we started the podcast. And we were saying that with MK, they've like rebooted it like several times.
Yeah.
But the core storyline still stays the same. It is, the Earth realm versus Outworld, in Mortal Kombat, the destiny of whichever, realm is basically, dependent on Mortal Kombat. And it's all these characters. It's very simple, and there's a lot of stuff that happens in it. And even if they reboot it, you still understand the motivation of the characters. And it kind of does feel a little bit like the MCU sometimes, because it's kind of like, it kind of shows, what can happen with time travel and, and with the gods and everything like that. So
especially when Mortal Kombat like runs into DC and Injustice.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, that's the thing. It just reboots itself when it realizes, okay, we've painted ourselves into a corner. We hit the reboot button. I think it's just like, it's unashamed to do it.
Yeah.
It just knows like, okay, cool. We've painted ourselves into a corner. We've done things that have upset the fan base. Let's hit the restart button. And they can always do it anyways, because it's just such a fantasy-driven series that, it's believable. It's like, oh, okay, Raiden just decided to, hit the reset button on the world and start over again. It's like, oh, that's believable. That's cool. We can deal with that.
Exactly.
Go ahead, man.
No, sorry. No, I was going to say, like, I think I remember, obviously I read all the lore when it was popping up on the game as like little fact sheets, or when you finished the game as a certain character in like Mortal Kombat 3, for example, they'd give you this whole little story you can read, and that was your big thing. But then eventually when the games, took on a bit of a bigger life and there was more narrative, I think it was Deception where Liu Kang died. And that was shock for me. I was like, how can a main character die? I was not okay. Like when they snapped his neck, and I just sat there and I was just like, I know I was young, dude. It just felt like it felt so intense, but it drew me in. I was like, this is so cool, like what more is there? So yeah, dude, big ups for their lore and they're not afraid to just go for it. No one's safe.
It's true, and I mean the thing is, like I remember as well, like Johnny Cage is my favorite character in Mortal Kombat, and I remember like when he died from Mortal Kombat 2 to Mortal Kombat 3, and I was like, what the hell? Like, what happened? And I was devastated. I was like, how can you remove Johnny Cage from here? It's like I was broken, and suddenly he comes back in like Mortal Kombat 4. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's back, awesome. And then he died again, like in one of the future games. I can't even remember which one it was. And he came back again. I'm like, okay, this is great. So as you say, they do that. I think they manage to keep the series fresh sometimes, like by actually just looking at some of the characters and parking them for a while, and then bringing in new characters and seeing how the audience reacts to them, and then say, okay, cool, that it's never set in stone, that it's going to disappear. I mean, look at Sub-Zero, for example. I mean, the original Sub-Zero is he was practically dead.
Yeah.
You know, like it was like there was a new Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 3 avenging the death of his brother, and that was an evil Sub-Zero. Now he's a good Sub-Zero. I mean, I don't even know which Sub-Zero we're talking about.
I got so confused. Like a few times I sat there, I was like, oh, there's Sub-Zero and there's Sub-Zero 2, okay, and then there's like, and then there's Frost, and then there's like, I was like, okay, fine, it's cool. But I didn't mind diving into it because, you know, between the Lin Kuei and the, oh man, what's Scorpion's clan? The I can't remember what they're called. Yeah,
I was just going to put my tongue, but I can't remember. Yeah.
That whole like battle between them, like ever
clans,
going. It never gets old. You love to see it, and I think Scorpion has soon become everyone's favorite. I don't know if he always was, but he's just become the poster child for Mortal Kombat more than Liu Kang.
But that's also quite cool, like what you mentioned there, because I think there's so much, especially in Mortal Kombat, compared to the likes of Street Fighter. Like Street Fighter, you know, there's not all these like mini subplots, if you want to call it that. You know, it's pretty much, you know, Ryu is basically, you know, supposed to face off against, you know, M. Bison, and that's basically, you know, the main sort of storyline. Like if you look at Mortal Kombat, they've got all these interesting subplots, as you say, you know, Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. You've got Sonya Blade versus Kano.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all of these like interesting little, you know, things going on there, and you know, you've got like Quan Chi in the background as well when you're not thinking about, you know, Shao Kahn. And, you know, you've obviously got the dynamic between Liu Kang and Kung Lao as well. So there's all these like little mini stories that like just make it richer compared to everything else. You just know that this is like, it's, you know, there's a lot there to dive into. And that's why I think, you know, with Mortal Kombat, it's been successful because it's not just in terms of games. You know, we've got the games, but at the same time, we've also got, you know, we've had the animated series that's come out, and we've had the movies that have come out. Yeah, and I mean the movies were, you know, the second one is well, the first one was great. Like, you know, the first Mortal Kombat was great, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation, that was a train wreck. But it was, you know, they tried to do something cool. There was also the Conquest TV series. There was like, you know, I think it ran for one season in the late 90s, and that was quite interesting. They're trying to explore the lore, and they're doing different things. And I think that's what makes it. Didn't Machinima
do something as well?
Yes, they got the Legacy series.
That was
they did
pretty cool.
Yeah, that was actually very interesting because I remember they did that short. And then that short like was so well received. It was like, oh, you know, this needs to become something. And then they did, it was Legacy Season 1, and that was great. And then Season 2 was greenlit, and that was even better. They even brought back some of the actors from the movies.
Oh, nice.
I remember for Shang Tsung, they did that. And they brought back, I think it was like, and they brought Mark Dacascos. I think he was Kung Lao, if I'm not mistaken. It was awesome. And he was either Kung Lao or Raiden, I can't remember now. But then the Season 3 was greenlit. It was like they actually recorded it apparently, because I was like seeing an interview with Casper Van Dien, and he was saying, who played Johnny Cage, he said that we actually recorded this, it's done. But there was a lot of, you know, political nonsense at Warner Brothers, and, you know, with obviously the studio, because Warner wanted to do its own movie, and they just parked it. So apparently Season 3 is just sitting there.
Wow.
Done.
Wow.
But no one's seen it.
The thing is, like, I don't know about you, but like I've gotten so excited about Mortal Kombat coming to TV, coming to movies, you know, coming to things so many times over, and it keeps getting delayed, or like someone leaves, or like there's always some kind of controversy behind it. And somehow that makes it even more interesting. I'm like, I just want to see something.
It's a good point. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we had the Mortal Kombat movie, that was 95. Yeah. So that was 25 years ago, basically. And then you had Annihilation, which I think was 2 years later. And since then, like, there's been no movie. But, the new movie is coming out in 2021 if COVID behaves itself.
Oh, dude, I hope so.
But I mean, at the moment, I'll be honest with you, it's supposed to be coming out in January 2021. Because it was originally supposed to be March 2021, but I think they finished early. And they were like, okay, cool, there's an opening in January, but this was before COVID. So I mean, the movie's done, the movie's finished.
Right.
So that's a good news. You know, it's not like they needed to go and, you know, refilm like parts of it. The movie was complete. Yeah. And what worries me though is we're in October right now, and we haven't seen a trailer at all for it. And normally it's normally around this time, you know, with blockbusters generally, you're talking anytime from 6 months before they're released to maybe 3 months before they're released. Yeah. But we haven't seen anything. You know, we've seen, you know, like, okay, they've announced what the logo, they've announced the actors in the movie, But that's it. We haven't seen anything else. There's no teasers. There's
I haven't
nothing
checked
available.
The actors. I should do that. You're getting me hyped. I've been so off the pulse with this that I've just accepted like I'll have to wait. Now that you're getting me hyped again, I need to go check out who's playing who.
No, they've got like a really decent cast. It's a young cast as well. And when you see some of the people involved, you're gonna be like, wow, that's some really good castings there. But they're also like, there's some some people have been announced, like Lewis Tan, for example.
Yeah.
He's been announced for the movie, but they haven't revealed who his character is. And Lewis Tan, I mean, he's quite a big name at the moment. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of debate, will he be Johnny Cage? And I mean, I'm on board for that, because that guy is like, he'd be perfect as Johnny Cage, like playing this like Hollywood sort of, over the top character. I think Lewis Tan is perfect for Johnny Cage. But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen anything about this movie, and I'm strongly believing that Warner's probably looking at like, should we, delay it? And they're not saying anything. They'll probably delay it closer to the time. I mean, if we look at it, Dune has just been delayed to like next year, October.
Didn't Batman also get delayed?
Yeah, that's like 2021 now as well. Well, no, 2022, sorry. That's 2022. So it was supposed to be October 1st, if I'm not mistaken, 2021, and now it's moved to March 2022.
Okay.
But Dune also like received, like everything has. The only one that's really stayed on the slate is Wonder Woman, which is supposed to come out around Christmas time. But I saw a lot of speculation. There's a rumor going around that it's going to go straight to HBO Max because they don't have faith when the movie theaters are going to open again, because in America, obviously, they a lot of them are still closed in some cities and around the world, and they're not really making money. And, there's obviously, I'd imagine, Warner's thinking maybe we should just, try it out, see how it does. And who knows, maybe Mortal Kombat could be also going to HBO Max.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
It's the way of the future, possibly, man.
It is. I mean, the thing is also, I don't think this Mortal Kombat movie was, it had Avengers-style budget, of $200 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it had like a decent budget. It is a franchise movie, so it's not going to be some indie movie where, you have to film it for a packet of crisps and an ice cream, But it's like it's going to have a decent budget, but they'd probably think to themselves, well, are we going to risk, releasing it in cinemas and getting nothing back in return, or just put it on HBO Max and make it like a draw card, like they've done with Witches now as well in October. Yeah. That was supposed to go to theaters, and it's like, okay, cool, we're going to do this. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they actually do.
Yeah, let's check it out.
But yeah, I mean, we've obviously spoken about the MK movie, but let's talk now, more importantly, about the MK games. Now, Loïs, you got to tell me, dude. People when they play Mortal Kombat, they generally think to themselves, it's fatalities. That's the main thing that comes to mind. Okay, it's fatalities. But there are also friendships in the game. There's also some combo moves. There's those X-ray vision moves as well like that. For you, what do you think is the thing about Mortal Kombat that every time you pick up a game, you're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. This is what I want to see. Is it the fatalities? Is it the combos? What is it about the gameplay that keeps you coming back for more?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you it was fatalities, friendships. Are babyalities still a thing? Those were a thing.
They were a thing, yeah.
I don't know if that's still a thing.
Coming and going. That's the one thing I've realized. Yeah, they come and go.
Oh, that's fair. All right. So I think for me, it's what I've always loved about Mortal Kombat is that like a single punch or a single kick, or the way that they do it is so intense that it would kill a mere mortal. Like just their normal punch, the way their necks kind of snap to the right when you just go for like a regular punch is amazing. So when you manage to have like a fluid combo going, switching between like weapons or whatever while you're doing it, and it's just bone crunching on every hit, it's so satisfying. And I think the most satisfying move for me, it's always been the uppercut. Just to see how much they fly with that. It's brutal and it's brilliant. But yeah, fatalities is obviously the winner. I am a fan of the X-ray moves. I didn't know if I was going to be. I thought it might be cheesy. People are going to be able to like use that a lot. But I think it was well implemented, and it's still a lot of fun.
It's interesting you mentioned that. It's like the uppercut, because I just imagine you being one of those guys sitting on the the left hand side of the screen, holding the block button the whole time, until the attack comes, and then you just uppercut them, and that's how you cheat your way.
100%.
It's like grinding your way to victory there.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the X-ray moves, it's cool, but like there's one thing that I have a problem with the X-ray moves. Like, it's something small, something minor, but it's just like, for example, when you see like something like a bone crunching move, like you see the skull, the jaw, like something does it, and then you execute the X-ray move. Then afterwards, your opponent looks absolutely fine.
Yeah, they're chilling.
Yeah, they're cool. And I've always found that that's like a little bit. It's a bit unrealistic for me. Like, I get it. Mortal Kombat's over the top.
Put Mortal Kombat and unrealistic.
I know. That's the thing. But like, and I hate to use this as an example, but I remember like in the WWE games, like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When you're still allowed to have blood in the game and stuff like that, they used to show like damage on an opponent.
Yeah.
So for example, like if you beat up an opponent, like in certain parts, you'd actually start seeing the blood and you start seeing the damage like showing on their body. And I've always wondered, like, wouldn't that be cool if like Mortal Kombat could implement something like that?
You're just dragging your broken leg behind you, trying to like fight.
Exactly.
That would be sick.
Imagine how cool that is. Like if it actually limits like certain things that you do. Like obviously you can do some high risk moves and stuff like that in the game, but it's like it just would add like a different element to it. Because also the thing is, what more do you think they can do with Mortal Kombat the games? Because if you look at it now, it's like it's great. I mean, you dig Mortal Kombat 11, it's great, and you look at Mortal Kombat 10, it was great. But how are they going to push things forward in Mortal Kombat 12? I mean, okay, we know they're going to have a lot of guest characters. You're going to have, more RoboCop, more of, Terminator, whatever. But how are you going to move the game forward, like the next step to say, all right, we've improved the fighting system, we've changed certain things. Like, how are you going to draw the people? Otherwise, it's just going to be like, you're playing FIFA every year, dude. It's just got like a new person on the cover. It's the same game inside the box.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get there.
I do think Mortal Kombat 11 is now polished their formula very well. So it's true that I'm not entirely sure what's going to come that's not just a gimmick, and it tied up the story pretty well as well. So a third person RPG? No, that's so like not Mortal Kombat, but maybe this permanent damage thing would be something cool, would be something different.
Well, look, I mean, they did experiment like, with different formats. I mean, there was a Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero game that was also like a platformer. They also had it was one with Jax as well. I can't remember what its name was now. And then it had the Shaolin monks with Liu Kang.
Oh man, that one was so sick. I forgot about MK Shaolin monks. That was dope.
And they had like they tried different things, and I mean, I think they were okay. I mean, if we're gonna like be honest here, besides Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, like that game was trash.
Yeah.
But like the rest of them, they were pretty decent. They were fun enough, it wasn't anything revolutionary. I don't think it was like, a Mortal Kombat game. But you raise a good point. I also do think that the storyline, it just brought everything to a close in Mortal Kombat 11. And I know they released, the new DLC that you can buy and all of that.
Yeah.
There was something recently. But the storyline is kind of much done, like what they've done. Like, as you said, it's going to be rebooted again, effectively.
Yeah.
That is what we're going to be doing.
No doubt.
And obviously there's a new generation of fighters, but like, are we going to be growing old with these characters now? Like, I mean, obviously Johnny Cage, he's got a daughter now, Cassie Cage.
Yes.
But I mean, are we going to see a pensioner Johnny Cage now? Like, what's going to happen? Are we going to be fighting with this dude like who's what's going to go on? It's like that's the thing.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested because obviously they're asking themselves the same question. Like, if you're the creative team there, you don't want to be on like the lore and story creative team. You just want to be on the fatalities creative team, sipping on gin and juice, like coming up with the most gruesome and over the top way to kill people.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think Mortal Kombat 10. It came out in, I think it was 2014, 2015, somewhere around there.
Was that when it got rebooted, right? Oh, no, that wasn't 10, it was before.
No. Yeah, I think it was 9, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was 9,
just
you're
called
right,
Mortal Kombat, yeah. But then Mortal Kombat 10 came out, and that was really cool. I remember that on PS4. It was just, when I got my PS4, I got it with Mortal Kombat, 10.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, this is awesome. That was the first thing, like, I played that game, and I was like, the way it's evolved was just something else. And then, obviously it took a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then we got Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
And, they spent, maybe I'm thinking Mortal Kombat 12, they might spend some time with it. So they don't need to release it every, 2 years or 3 years. Maybe
it doesn't have to be FIFA.
Yeah, it's like maybe it should be like every 5 years or so. Like, just let it rest for a while.
Yeah.
And, then bring it back. But I mean, it's kind of interesting because you think about Street Fighter and Street Fighter tried to do that. I mean, for many years, you didn't really get, like Street Fighter was popping up. Yeah. They tried to do that. They try to keep it, like, oh, okay, this is going to be an occasion. When a new Street Fighter comes out, it's something.
Right.
It's an occasion for you guys. It's not something that, you're going to get every year, like, as you say, like a FIFA.
Yeah.
But, for them, I don't know. It just, there was a change there. Something happened because I remember, Mortal Kombat, I think around Mortal Kombat 4.
Yeah.
When it was the first time it went into, like, 3D graphics.
Yes.
They tried it. It looks very dated now. But there was something about that game that did not translate as well. That it wasn't as well received as other ones. It wasn't as much hype for it. Look, personally, I thought it was great for its time. Yeah. I thought, I got on my PC and I was like, oh, this is really cool. It was something different at the stage, and like, wow, this is really different.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of a dip, and I kind of also associated with, the bit of a transition that gaming went through at the time, because, we obviously had Mortal Kombat always coming out first at the arcades and then on console.
Yeah.
And that used to be the thing, like obviously you go play it. Then we started transitioning away from arcades. Like it became more of your home gaming systems.
Console, yeah.
Your home console became everything. And I think that was around about that time that, we started noticing a bit of transition, because then people started getting sucked in by other games. There was just a whole bunch of games out there that, you wanted to play, and first-person shooters. And I think fighting games took a bit of a backseat to that stage, because they were pretty much arcade titles now, like they were coming across. And it took a while for it to develop, again, the interest in Mortal Kombat. I don't think it ever went away, but it wasn't quite what it is now.
Yeah, it's true. It did dip at some stage, noticeably.
And I also think it probably ties in with the reason why you say that there hasn't been a movie or like a TV series that has come out in the last couple of years, like for many years, is because I think it was, seesawing in popularity.
Yeah.
And they're probably like, we don't want to invest too much money in this because it's going to flop, and, we don't know what to do with it, effectively.
Yeah, not so twisty.
And now it's a different story. Now it's like, okay, Mortal Kombat actually has got a very, very good following at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's back to where it belongs, and yep, it's the king of fighters.
I think was it Mortal Kombat 10 where it kind of exploded back? I mean, I saw a lot of hype for 9, but I think like 10 is where I just saw everyone losing their minds.
Yeah, it was 10 where I think it's the new fighting system that we experienced, the new graphics, the new approach. And I think that I think it pushed it to the next level. What they did was, with the gameplay and, keeping things fresh, they just brought something new to the party here that no one had done at that stage. And I think that this is where Mortal Kombat succeeds, where like Tekken and, Street Fighter or maybe failing, is they haven't pushed forward.
Yeah.
They're still stuck there. They're still stuck in, I don't know, Xbox 360 gen. They're there. They haven't quite evolved.
It's true. I think when you find a formula that works, you try and like stick to it so long that sometimes it's too long. I mean, if we're looking at, this is a game that's nothing like a fighting game, but it's the only one I can think of right now, where they have a formula that they keep using over and over, and it's finally kind of dying, I don't know if you've ever played the original Pokemon games, but I noticed with this new Switch one, actually, like, because it's been quiet, I Googled the other, I was like, are people still playing? And after like, I think a month or so, because those games you used to play them for ages, you got sucked in, and they're just kind of dead now. And I think people are so over the same thing with no like innovation. I think even whether it's a fighting game, an RPG, whatever, the danger to sticking too long without innovating is that loss of interest.
I think it's also like, as you say, it's genres. I think he hits certain peaks.
Yeah.
We've got certain peaks for genres. Like if you look at, for example, platformers, like Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario Brothers, those were like super popular in the 90s. Those were the games to have. Those were the games that were like outselling everyone else. And nowadays, if you look at it, yes, Sonic and Mario still have a fan base and they still do well, but it's more of a nostalgia factor.
Yeah,
you don't see a lot of new platformers come out. Okay, cool. I mean, you've got Crash Bandicoot 4, which is I would say that's like Sony's answer to Mario and Sonic.
Yeah,
and it's done something really cool in the sense that it's kept true to what the platformer genre is and to what Crash Bandicoot is.
Yeah,
but it's also kind of said, what, we're moving a little bit forward. But you kind of look at the game and you say to yourself, this is great, but there's nothing else like it, like really challenging it.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it's a product of its time, I think, in a certain way.
Exactly.
And with a lot of games, as you say, if you don't evolve, you sometimes get left behind. There's a certain way, I sometimes, like when I play my old PlayStation 1 games, and I think to myself, oh, this was so cool. And then you kind of think, this is like, it feels different now.
Yeah.
Like now when you compare yourself to the mechanics of playing something like, God of War,
yeah.
or, and you like think to yourself, okay, wow, this is like really in depth. There's so much happening here. Before it would just be like, God of War, like if you had to create it in the 90s, like in the early 90s, it would just be Golden Axe, effectively.
Love that game, by the way. Golden Axe was amazing.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with it, but that's what it is. It's like, side-scrolling, beat 'em up. It's like Streets of Rage, effectively. And that's the thing. You start realizing that, certain genres, I think they come back. There's always a bit of a call back to it. And, especially I think with older fans for the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
But if you don't evolve, and I think that's with fighting games, they got smart. Especially Mortal Kombat, they said, okay, we need to evolve this. We can't just think of basically, making a game for arcade anymore, because that's not what happens. And I think maybe that's where Street Fighter still fails a little bit. It still feels too much arcadey and not enough like, okay, this is something I can invest a lot of time in. But I mean, look, I'm also speaking out of my ass here, because there are people out there that are having, Street Fighter competitions. It's still huge around the world.
Yeah, look, it's still revered to many as like the king of fighters, but like not objectively, Mortal Kombat's better.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm saying that, and it's the same thing with Tekken. But if you don't evolve, you're gonna die.
Yeah,
and I think that's like, Mortal Kombat's shown that it's like, what. And I think at the same time, it's shown if you die, they can always resurrect you, because that's what Mortal Kombat's about.
It can always be rebooted.
It's like a giant Lazarus pit, so that's what happens.
Yeah.
when you uppercut somebody into like one of those things that looks like an acid pit or something, it's a Lazarus pit. You're gonna rise again, and
Dude,
back to the next game.
Someone like new to the game, like will like see it happen, see someone die, and be like, no, this character, I love this character. They'll be back. Don't worry about it.
But it's crazy though if you think about like back then, how much controversy Mortal Kombat caused when it arrived. Like
at the arcade, yeah.
Yeah, it was Mortal Kombat, it was Doom, it was like, there's violence and blood, and it's now like literally like the prototype for every video game out there. If you kind of look at it, it's just like every game has done it. They've made it more realistic.
And like, because recently I've been watching Amazon's The Boys season 2, and it's so gruesome and hardcore, and I just sat there and I was like, you know what? This is what Mortal Kombat should be like, basically. Like
literally episode 7.
Me already.
Literally episode 7, right? Like the final bit of episode 7.
I sat there and I was like, fatality.
I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I caught up on it last night. I was like, man, this is like,
dude, what?
Only the boys can do this. But you're right. I mean, I think Mortal Kombat is like, it started that, and everybody was like, oh, this is gruesome. This is terrible. Ooh, the children. What will happen to the children?
It's like with GTA and how like, no, they're gonna go outside and like beat up women on the streets and just take people's money. Like, yeah,
exactly. Like GTA is just. I mean, look, this GTA has also caused controversy because of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. But I think that now, like, looking back, Mortal Kombat was like Doom at that stage as well, a very big game changer.
Yeah.
Because it kind of said, what, gaming doesn't just need to be something for kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't just need to be something that's, bright, colorful characters, plumbers jumping through pipes, and like going to other like fantasy worlds.
Right.
It was like, it can be something more. It can be something, more gruesome, something more realistic, something that reflects, like, for example, movies, as we say, you can have your children's movies, you can have your comedies, and you can have whatever, but there's also like, there's adult movies, there's action movies that are, people's heads flying off.
Adult animation, and then like someone who doesn't watch any animation comes, oh, you're watching cartoons. You just get so mad. It's not cartoons, it's for adults.
Exactly. It's like if somebody watched the new like Mortal Kombat animated movie that came out as well, like they'd also think that, oh, this is cool. Let me buy it for like, my 3-year-old son. Like, no. It's like, this is not going to fly. But it's true. I mean, I think that it's a game like that opened up a discussion for something wide, as you say, adult animated series, and opening up this whole entire world. I think they were trailblazers at the time. They actually brought this out and they said, what, we're going to break the rules.
Yeah,
we're going to do something different. And I think that's a reason why we have what we have now, and that's a reason why you can have an R-rated Harley Quinn animated series.
Yeah. That's
funny, but it's directed at adults and it's not for kids. But at the same time, you can have a Justice League action, for example, for children. So it's a bit of everything. There's a lot of options out there. But now it's not just like, okay, well, Mortal Kombat, if we want to go into cartoons, and it has to be you can't have knives, you can't kick anyone, you can throw salt in their eyes maybe or something.
But that's a good point. Like, you definitely have to give Mortal Kombat credit for the influence they've had in the entertainment industry in general. Like, often you'll see something and you'll be like, that's very Mortal Kombat-esque. Or like Mortal Kombat will have already done it or made it okay, but like, yes.
I think what it also did was it brought the whole fantastical sort of element into sort of the fighting genre in a sense. You kind of had, obviously there was also a little bit of elements of that in Street Fighter. We've got to be honest here. Obviously you had certain elements, especially when they're pulling off certain moves like the Hadouken. We know that. But I think with Mortal Kombat, it made it wider, especially with martial arts. And I mean, if you kind of look at even some martial arts series that you see nowadays, as you say, you can see the Mortal Kombat influence. I think it's carried over. And the sort of characters, and I think that's it's great. And I think that we've all got to be grateful and thankful to Mortal Kombat
and Ed Boon,
the king of fighters. Yes, and Ed Boon, and obviously we can't forget about Tobias as well. I mean, come on. John Tobias was there. So, yes, we always talk about Ed Boon because of Noob Saibot. We just remember his first name, Noob Saibot, so we know that. But yeah, it's Mortal Kombat is definitely the king of fighters. And Loïs, man, thank you once again for joining me to chat about Mortal Kombat and all this other geeky stuff that we did.
Absolute pleasure.
It was super cool. And we're going to have to decide next week what to talk about. There's quite a few topics that, some of our listeners have given us.
Yeah, we're going to have to test our might and figure it out. See what we do.
Test your might. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed listening to the show and you want to leave a comment down below, or, you want to reach out and say to us, hey, you guys should talk about Street Fighter next time, and, why that is a king of fighters, which we'll disagree with you on, but it's cool, we'll chat about it. Then just, drop us a line and drop us a comment. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thanks for joining us. Until next time, guys. Cheers.
Bye.